Hi, I'm Avram Goldhar, and welcome to RememberYourLearning.com. If this is the first time you're here, the basic premise is that my background is teaching people how to remember what they learn, whether it's students, teachers, professionals, to make it easy to absorb and retain material. And being that Daf Yomi began, I was one of the thousands, if not tens of thousands, that was inspired by the Sima Shas. I've jumped in, and I've been applying a lot of the things I've learned over many years, beginning in yeshiva, to Daf Yomi, because many people are intimidated by the thought of being able to retain much of Daf Yomi. The goal is typically to go through it and maintain the consistency of it. But my sense has always been that people are probably underestimating what is really possible with not that much greater amount of investment of time. I mean, obviously, the more time you invest, the better. But there's a lot of things people aren't aware that they could be doing that would make a major difference. One of those things has been Simanim, which is to link the inyanim, the topics on each daf, to the daf per se, so we can have an active way of retrieving what's on each daf. We could find where things are, and we could easily review the inyanim and maintain a hold on the masechta. So instead of what many people experience, which is like a learning blur, as you go through the dafim, a couple days ago, it's already part of that big blur. Let's make every daf distinct. So, being that we reached the halfway mark, we're going to do a review, and my goal is to do at least 4 daf a minute in Chazorah, which means it'll take us about 16 minutes to chazer the entire Mesechus Brachas. Now, if you do the math on this, it's really unbelievable. But if we can keep the pace of 4 daf a minute review for the Simanim, then that means that we'll be able to review all of Shas, all 2,711 dafim, in a grand total of just over 11 hours. Just over 11 hours for all of Shas, reviewing a Balpa outside, in our head, daf by daf, and holding on to it all. Now, I'm not committing myself. I'm not saying, I certainly have not done it yet. But if the numbers make sense, just plug in 2,711 divided by 4, that's the number of minutes, then divide that by 60 to figure out the number of hours is 11.3 hours. So if you look at your learning as a businessman, treat your learning like a business, and your goal is to make a kinyan on the riches of Torah, so to speak, so then I can't think of probably greater return on your investment than the time it makes to make Simanim and to review. For me right now, it's an average between 5 to 10 minutes of effort a day. So if I can get that type of return of 5 or 10 minutes a day, that's fantastic. But the reality is you get much more than just remember the inyanim. You're really getting a framework for holding on to the ideas. And there's more. We'll talk about other areas of Chazor coming up. So here we go. We're going to go through the entire, first 32 dafim all the way through daf Lemon Gimel. I'm going to get out my handy dandy timer. And we'll review it together. And let's see if we can recall, by memory, using the Simanim, the inyanim we covered. Many of the inyanim we covered. Not all of them, but many of them. Okay, here goes. 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, Daf Beis deals with Kriya Shema Shal Arvis and the inyan of a Kohen and Ani with its Chad Shi'irahu. Daf Gimel is the Mishmaros, Rabbi Elazar's Din of Mishmaros. How many, why, when are they, what happens during them, as well as David HaMelech during the night. What was the Seder in terms of sleep, waking up? The Kinor, did he know when Chatzos was? Daf Dal was David HaMelech saying Shamar Nafshi Ki Chasid Ani, as well the Cham Mishit of Chatzos, why they held Chatzos, and halachas therein. Daf Hey is Kriya Shema Mita and Yisurin Shal Alva. Daf Vav is Mazikin, the Tefillin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as well as in Yom Relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Beis Knesset is waiting for us if we're not there, his reaction, so on. Daf Zayin is the Tefillah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as well as the important question of Tzadik V'Ralo. Daf Ches is the Pshat of Matzah Isha Matzah Tov, the different Pshatim, 5 different Pshatim in terms of what a good time to be found is, as well as Shnai Mikveh Targum and the Daled Amos of Halacha that Kosh Baruch Hu was found since the Churban Beis HaMikdash. Daf Tes is why didn't the Chachamim include Karban Pesach in their items that you have until morning, but you should do until by Chatzos, as well as the Mishnah of Kriya Shema Shal Shachris ben Tchelas Elavan. Daf Yud is the case of Rabbi Meir and Bruria debating on how to deal with the 2 people who are really bothersome living next door, as well as the case of Chizkiel Melch and Yeshua Navi feeling who should be whom to go and visit, as well as other Gemara's way to Chizkiel Melch. Daf Yud Aleph is the Malchus Beis Shem Beis Hillel in terms of the position one needs to be in for saying Shema, as well as Birchas Kriya Shema, as well as Birchas Torah. Daf Yud Beis is the fact that the Seres HaDibros was said before the Shema in the Beis Hamikdash. They had wanted to say it outside the Beis Hamikdash as well. We have to go after the Ikra of Bracha, the Chasim of the Bracha, in the case of the wine and the beer, as well as Parshas Balak being considered for part of Kriya Shema. Daf Yud Gimel is, can one say the names of Avram, Sarai, and Yaakov? Are they over an alav or an aseh for those? And then we have the beginning of the Kavanah. What's the Kavanah necessary for the Shema? Daf Yud Daled is Bein HaPrakim, and interrupting the Shema, Bein HaPrakim, Be'emso HaPrakim, for whom, when, how, why, as well as the Seder Parshios, and we Rishim by Yochai's Pshat on why we have the Seder the way it is. Daf Tezvav, that washing in the morning is part of the Kabbalah Zalmach Shemayim and Shleimus, and halachas relate to water and davening. And then we have whether one needs to hear them say the Shema or not. You have to hear the words for Shema. Daf Tez is the workers saying Shema, Chassan saying Shema, in Yan relate to Avadim, as well as the various tefillos that the rabbis had said after the Shemona Esrei. Daf Yud Zayin are all the different tefillos, which are now many of them incorporated into our tefillos throughout the year, as well as Chassan saying Shema, and whether that's looks Gaivadik or not. Daf Yud Ches is what's appropriate behavior within the basic Kfaros, and the case of the mice of the Chassid and the two spirits. Daf Yud Tes are the 24 cases, supposed cases, Mishnais, where someone goes into Nidui, is excommunicated by their treatment of Chamim, as well as having to take off one shirt that contains shatnez and not being concerned about your own kavod when it comes to kavod Shemayim. Then we have Daf Chaf. Why don't Nisim happen like they did in earlier Doros? We have the case of Mysterious Nefesh, of the Rebbe running down after the woman with the red dress, and also the case of the Mishnah dealing with what women are patur for, which mitzvahs are they patur from. Daf Chaf Aleph is Balkiri, Gabi Kriya Shema, as well as walking to shul when they're already in the midst of Shemona Esrei. When do you jump in? When you have to wait for Kedusha, and after that. Then we've got Daf Chav Beis, is the Tikkun of Ezra, Gabi Balkiri, and then the din of Tisha Kabin. Daf Chav Gimel is having to go to the bathroom before you daven, and that's the appropriate thing to do. And then we have halachas relate to the tefillin and the basic kisei and the treatment therein. Then we have Daf Chav Daled, is saying Shema when you have someone next to you in the bed, be a wife or children, and then making different sounds, whether it's burping, yawning, sneezing, or even talking, how that upsets others and so on, and the din, Gabi Shema and Tefillah. Then we have Daf Chav Hey, which is other issues related to Reach Ra, Tzoa, the Iker, different states of it, so on. And then we have the case of someone in the mikveh when Shema arrives. Daf Chav Vav is all this money Tefillah, beginning the parak of Tefillah Shachar, as well as what is the basis of the Tefillos. Is it the Avos? Is it the Karbanos? Chav Zayin is Ad Va'ad B'Klal, clarifying Rabbi Yehuda Shita, as well as the beginning of the Ma'aseh of Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua and his treatment of Rabbi Yeshua, which leads to the Rabbi Gamliel stepping down and looking for someone else to replace him as Nasi. Daf Chav Ches, as Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah becoming the Nasi, opening the doors of the Beis Midrash, saying the Tefillah of Nechunya ben Akana, also the case of Rabbi Elazar being ill, and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who tells us Talmudim that their fear of Shemaim should be as great as the fear of people, and also in Yan related to the Shemona Esrei, the structure of Shemona Esrei, the source for that. Then we have Daf Chaf Tes, which are things which, why we have 7 brachas for Shabbos, 9 for Rosh Hashanah, 24 for Tainus, and also the idea that your tefillah should not be masu, it should make a keva, with different pshatim and what that means. Daf Lamed is tefillah sederach. Also, your kavanah should be towards Yerushalayim and the base of Migdash. We have the question of whether Musaf is said as yachid only bechever ear, and also Chasidim Rishon in their preparation for tefillah. And then Daf Lamed Aleph is breaking the glass into the chuppah to dampen the mood of the chasna. There's also appropriate moods going into tefillah, and we have all the drushes, all the halachas learned out of Chana, the tefillah of Chana. And then Daf Lamed Beis is Moshe Rabbeinu advocating on behalf of Klal Yisrael when it came to the Chet Egel, as well as all the milas of tefillah and the fact that the gates of tears is never closed. And Daf Lamed Gimel, today's daf, is what to do when you're confronted with a snake or scorpions or bulls during tefillah, and also things we add throughout the year and Havdalah specifically, whether it's on the coast or during Tefillah, and also things that you shouldn't insert, like Al Kansipor Yegi Rechamecha. That's Daf Lamed Gimel. Great. What are we holding here? Grand total of? Oh, perfect. 6 minutes and 58 seconds. Okay, great. All right, so our goal was to get through 4. That was going to be, the 33 was about 8 minutes. Perfect. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm happy. So if we can keep that up for the rest of the Masechta, that means we'll review brachas in roughly, let's say 16 minutes, 15, 16 minutes to chazan the entire Masechta to keep it clear. So that's, again, great. We're halfway through. Keep up with Simanim. Thanks for your patience. I hope this was helpful. And by all means, if this is helpful to you or it's not, you have questions, email me at agoldhar@goldhar.com.